At 600 miles an hour, this van is just 250 feet above the ground, and only 20 miles and 2 minutes flying time from what could be the next front line, the border with eastern Germany. On a red alert mission, he'll fly 100 feet lower, perilously low, because that's the only way he'll slip past an enemy radar screen. This aircraft is a Buccaneer of 15 Squadron, based at RAF Biggin in western Germany. This is a training run. On a business trip, he'll carry under each wing a nuclear bomb, something he calls with chilling flippancy, a bucket of instant sunshine. It has taken 3 years and £1.5 million to train this man to fly this beautiful, deadly machine. He dreamed of being a fighter pilot. Now he's made it. He's one of the few. The story begins in May 1978, here at Biggin Hill with its Battle of Britain ghosts. The station duty officer is going to brief 31 young men who want to be fighter pilots.
Mr. Hall, Mr. Porter, Mr. Stewart.
They're a curious mixture: bank clerk, farmer, zoologist, milkman, university dropout, public school top, state school climber, average age 21 with 5 O-levels or better.
Mr. Bailey.
Some are following a set ambition, others are here on a sudden whim or a vague quest for adventure.
Mr. Smart.
Well, good afternoon, gentlemen. Welcome all to RAF Biggin Hill.
For 3 days now, they'll be tested for pilot aptitude, intelligence, motivation, ability to lead, and physical excellence. For 3 days, they'll be under relentless scrutiny, measured against the RAF's idea of what constitutes an officer and a gentleman.
And if it's complaints about food, well, then it's best brought up for time, isn't it? All right, now, a brief word on the formal interview itself. Now, the interview can last up to 1 hour, and although it's not an ordeal, it's a conversation, but it's very important.
Some will fall at the first hurdle. Those who survive will learn much about themselves, not all of it pleasant. These few, these ordinary few, won't be the stylish daredevils that another legendary generation of airmen were. They'll be made into different stuff: disciplined, nerveless, super-efficient chaps, and who can be molded. Nearly 2,000 apply every year. Only 1 in 5 gets through. Those who come through this 3-day assessment will be saying goodbye to their youth.
I've only got one worry, and that's failure. 6 months ago, I think it was about that time, I decided, what do I want to do for the next 20 years? I said, do I want to carry on being in production management? I said no.
It's like, well, appeals to me, the actual lifestyle of the pilot appeals to me. From when I was younger, it's the glamour side that appealed to me. The fact that the wings and the chest and a fast sports car, that sort of image, was when I was young, that captivated me. It was sitting in the runway and waved to the pilots.
You associate fighter pilots, whatever you call them, fast jet pilots, which is quite a nice thing. With the young blokes, full of life and energy and go.
My last job was as a plant ecologist, this status has since finished, and I've been unemployed for 3 months, and I'm getting older, and I've had to rethink my career prospects. And I've always considered the forces as a last resort.
So this has been a sort of lifelong ambition. What will happen to me in the next few years, I don't know. It all depends on the next few days, really.
Day one starts with intelligence tests.
You've seen what sort of background they're coming from. Sometimes they've got very good backgrounds. Background of flying at university, background of civil flying. Sometimes they've got absolutely no background record at all, and their record too suggests that they're not particularly determined in life. They're a bit of a rolling stone. And so one can certainly form positive or negative impressions initially. Whether you're always right in the long run, that's another question too.
This is a test of the smoothness of your eye and hand coordination.
The pilot aptitude tests, and the pressure's on because these are the ones they must pass. They're being tested for coordination of hand, foot, and eye. If they fail here, they'll be told at once.
And you are warned that the pointers are intended to lag behind the wheel movements.
By combining the movements of the hand column and the rudder bar, you can move the spotted light to any position on the screen. Try that.
I think the mechanical tests were the worst because you can see if you're going wrong or not, but on the written ones you don't know. On the mechanical ones, like where you got a spot, you can see if it's going out all the time. You think, oh, Christ, what have I done?
It was very bad in the test, especially the one where you had to keep the spot of light in the middle of the screen. I was shaking all over. Just jerking my reactions, you know. I was trying to do it smoothly, but I just couldn't. I just hope they take that into account.
Candidate number 1, 24-5. 21.
Results of the first tests are coming through. It's pass or fail time.
The tests come very fast, one after another. They don't give you a break between. So they try and keep the pressure on you all the time, I think. I think that becomes part of the test, which you're involved in here. I think the whole programme, actually. When you get up in the morning to when you finally leave the centre, you're under constant observation, really.
Candidate number 8, 31-6. 36-8.
Mr. Hall. First door on your left, please. Okay.
They often ask why they've failed, but I don't like using that word, failure. I suggest to them that it's a disappointment, maybe, but not a failure. And then, if they're still interested, you can go into some detail as to why they have been disappointed. It can be at aptitude, it can be for medical reasons, or they may have been disappointed at the interview, of course.
How do they react?
Well, there are, you get the blasé type who couldn't care less anyhow. Others, of course, take it very badly, and you have tear sessions, which are not very
Candidate number 15, 19-3. 34-7.
It's terrible. It's just sitting there waiting for the buzzer to go. Wait for your name to be called down, not knowing what you're doing. Yeah, go for a quick walk, fill your case and walk out the gates. Or on to medical. It's horrible. It's the worst of it, just waiting. If you're actually doing something, it's not too bad. But waiting around is killing.
Student Technician Jenner, close the door, please, if you will. I'm afraid I've got a disappointment for you, in that you didn't succeed in aptitude today to be considered for either pilot or nav this time.
So,
And looking at your performance, I think it's fair to say that your chances of succeeding for pilot are fairly remote.
Mr. Ewan.
Yeah. My name is Wing Commander Simpson, Mr. Ewan. I'm afraid I've got a little bit of a disappointment for you in that...
At the end of the first day, 6 are given what's known as the 410. The 410 is the bus they'll catch on the way out.
And I'm afraid I've got a
Squad Leader Elton, Mr. Booth. I'm sorry to say that the board who saw you have not selected you for a commission in the Royal Air Force.
Thank
Well, here we go. Moment of truth. Okay, thank you. Excuse me.
They really haven't thought out why they want to come into the RAF. They've probably seen an advert and they've said, oh, this looks an attractive and exciting life. And they haven't really examined themselves to find out whether they're really going to like it. And some of the things that we get involved in are not always attractive.
The medical test, and the tension drops because this time their pride isn't on the line. Failing the physical is acceptable. It's a fault of nature, not character. But it's an exacting test. This, for example, isn't just a routine ECG. A fighter pilot's heart can drop as much as 2 inches under the strain of powerful G-forces. So the candidates know how important this check is.
Okay, that's fine. Finished. Thank you very much.
What they hadn't expected was to find that failure could hang on the length of an arm or a leg. The modern cockpit is designed for standard-sized pilots only. 4 fail the medical. The identification process starts in earnest next morning.
It takes approximately 3 years for a potential pilot coming through Biggin Hill to actually qualify and be on the squadron, and that incorporates 4 months at the Officer Cadet Training Unit, approximate times, 2 years in flying training, plus 6 months at an operational conversion unit, plus 2 time to settle in on the squadron. So it's a really good 3 years, and somebody during that time really wants to succeed. He must succeed, otherwise if he doesn't, he's going to get kicked off at any particular stage. And that is one particular quality we're very careful to look for here, if we can identify it at all.
Mr. Shelton, morning to you. Come on, have a seat, would you?
The 22 survivors are interviewed one by one. They're nervous because they've heard that the personal interview is supremely important. If they survive this, they've got a better than even chance of winning selection. The interview isn't what they'd expected. It's informal, even friendly. They don't know it, but they're being relaxed into revealing more than they intend. Behind those polite smiles, a cold analysis is going on. Character and motivation are being judged. And something else. The interviewers are looking for that elusive quality that will tell them he's the right sort.
But he's always encouraged me whatever I've done. So,
But he's retired now.
He's retired.
Now, what about your mother? Does she work?
She's a part-time upholstery teacher, teaching us. Lectures in some of the further education colleges in Coventry.
So what actually attracts you then to the life in the RAF?
The glamour, I suppose, more than anything else.
What do you mean by that?
Well, it appears that, from perhaps the civilian aspect, to be well, a very elite position, really, to say that you're a pilot for the RAF, or you fly in the
To be a pilot?
Well, that's what I'd like to be, yeah.
Right, okay. Why do you want to be a pilot?
For that reason, I think I would feel we would feel that I'd achieved something should I actually get to become a pilot.
So it's on motivation, of course.
That's right. That is
there's no interest in aviation there at all, we can see.
We're just another job in the pipeline.
Just another job. You'd rather be concerned with ecology, wouldn't he?
That's right. Ideally,
much
he would
sooner
like to
be
do
working
that,
in
yeah.
the woods or something.
If he doesn't want to join us, you know, there's no question of, well, is there any chance of coming back at all in the future? I mean, going back to my ecology if possible.
Yeah, that's it.
His mother told him to write off from that Observer advert.
On balance, with considerable reservations on this candidate's motivation, real desire to be an officer in the RAF is assessed as having weak potential.
Yeah.
I think that's fair.
We have to give one for NCOR as well, of course.
I've never been so nervous in all my life. I'm sitting there nibbling my fingernails and I'll be sick, I'll be sick.
What do you think was the most important question?
Like, why do you want to join the RAF? Of course, I've never had any great ambition throughout my life to join the RAF. It's just something over the last few years I've thought about, should all else fail. I must admit that does sound rather bad, but it's not quite as bad as it sounds. I would very much like to join, but it's such a large commitment. I'd always consider, I'd always thought I'd try other things first. But I think I'd quite like to join, really.
Hello, Smart. How are you? Please sit yourself down. Thank you very much. You brought nice weather with you.
Yes.
It's lovely.
It was dismal yesterday.
Nice to see your sunshine. And when did you arrive at Biggin Hill then?
On Sunday.
On Sunday.
What do you think are going to be the main differences, if you're successful, between your life as a non-commissioned airman and that of an officer?
It'd be more sort of, well, more refinery as an officer.
More?
Refined, as in, because we don't let your hair down quite so often. Well, I think.
Yeah, what else will it bring in train?
Sorry,
What else will be changed in your way of life, do you think, besides these refinements?
I think the social circle will sort of be increased, really, in
Yeah.
sort of, to a better social circle, really.
What do you think your training is going to cost if you came in to train as an FRCA pilot?
I just think around the £500,000, quarter to £500,000 mark.
A little more than that. It's going to cost as much as $1 million to get you onto the squadron.
Again, well, it's in different areas, but Dunstable.
Really?
Yes, I did
That's
like
all
around
right.
there.
And so what happened on that?
I was yet again fined £40.
Oh, they up the old
Oh, yes.
did they?
And endorsed.
So, and the outcome of this last one you mentioned in the vehicle, that never went to court?
No, it was just, I was breathalyzed at the hospital.
Retired, pleasant, open and frank, he presented his case in a fairly interesting manner, but it was not particularly convincing. He's not much of a sportsman. He doesn't profess to being all that athletic. And his current interest is sparse and unbalanced. To date, he's shown no great zest for going for positions of responsibility. He's shown limited spirit of adventure, not much initiative or imagination. His motivation, I felt, came across as rather unsubstantiated and shallow. He's an unimaginative and uninformed on current affairs, and the board felt that the shallow junior here, without much punch or sparkle, only offer his weak commissioning potential and limited seniority.
Yeah, I agree with you. He's got quite a nice facade, quite a nice shell. But once you get inside that shell, there's not very much to offer.
I think he'll possibly fold up and part.
What dissatisfaction do you get with the present job?
I don't get any job satisfaction on it, or a challenge.
All right,
I often feel I'm just going through the motions.
Okay, so you want something with a challenge. Why the Air
That's my
Force?
limit.
Okay.
I think it will test my
But
limits.
why the Air Force employing? Why not other agencies employing?
I suppose probably because it seemed the most, after having laid out the criteria that I decided on, it seemed the most natural choice. It seems to me I'll probably get my best training and flying with those.
All right. Well, what advice have you taken about this application?
I spoke to a friend of mine.
Who's he? In what connection?
Oh, sorry, RAF.
Things might have gone sour somewhere on the continent, and you're dispatched to drop a bomb on a village that has become a military target. How do you feel about killing people in this endeavour?
He wants to kill anybody, but in a situation where you're at war with another country, and you're fighting for what you believe in, the freedom of your country, then you must do what's necessary.
I did play five-side football for the squadron on camp.
When the Air Force is a pilot, what sort of pilot would you like to be?
Obviously,
Why obviously?
if you gain a Queen's Commission, it means an awful lot to you.
What does it do?
Well, it gives you responsibilities, not only to the unit you're in and to the service, and obviously to the Queen, but also to yourself. There are certain ideals that you yourself have to live up to. Not only when you're actually carrying out your duties, but even when you're not, you're still an officer. You have to bear up in mind, you have to act accordingly.
So what sort of qualities, first of all, are we looking for in recruiting young officers?
Well, I think obviously you want people who have a sense of leadership. Obviously,
yes.
if you're an officer, you are in command.
As a young man, he's been very, very well involved with all sports and various societies and all that kind of thing. I mean, playing golf 2 or 3 times a week. Still being able to turn up academic results like he has done.
Yes.
Speaks very well for him,
Yes.
actually.
I mean, what has he got? 10 O-levels? 10 O-levels?
He hasn't failed an exam. He hasn't failed an exam.
Yeah.
And neither at school or at university at all.
He's obviously a very able lad, isn't he?
Yeah.
And he speaks well. He's articulate.
Very relaxed.
Interested in
Considering the
talking.
circumstances,
Yes.
he was very relaxed indeed. I was quite impressed with that part.
If you're talking about the idea of being an officer and a gentleman, I think it's very important to be the gentleman.
What I've said, by the way, is this mature, composed young man made some impact on the board with a strength of character and depth of personality. A little casual perhaps, but direct in manner and with some poise and polish, he was able to express himself well. There is evidence of responsibility, independence and adventure in his life, and he's an able sportsman, but there is only a small interest in flying, too, in his background.
For 24 hours of a day, you are an officer in the Royal Air Force.
Now the candidates go into action and for the first time perform as a group.
We can soon recognise the actors. Their part is very quickly seen, actually. I would like us to ask the candidates to try and project themselves a little bit more, but you soon find them warming to the exercises. To start off with, they're rather inhibited, but then after a while they start to get the feel of things and they get a bit of confidence going because they're starting to realise maybe they do one or two things right. So by the time the period of the exercises does finish, then they are projecting themselves with intelligence and with influence, and that's what we're really looking for.
It's a delicate balancing act. They have to submerge themselves in a team and at the same time display natural qualities of leadership. They're working out how to cross an imaginary river.
We do watch them the whole time. They don't think we are, but I can assure you we are. Many of the asides we hear. Sometimes the advantage of the candidate, actually.
Pull the other rope down. Now you got
They're working well as a team. You can see that. They're coordinating well. It's a little better than usual, quite honestly. By this time of the exercise, they're still trying to wrestle onto the first tank trap.
The latest person onto that old job.
Will that reach across to there?
They're still getting together as a team, basically, but there's one or two people emerging now. Number 4 is starting to show a little bit. He's got some good ideas, but he's lacking perhaps a little bit of forcefulness to put them across. But they're melding together now slightly as a team.
They're making quite heavy weather of this. They should really have made more progress, and they're doubling up, as you can see. They don't need 2 pranks to make progress as far as they are. Basically, their method is right, but they're taking a very long time to reach it, and at this event, in this progress, they'll certainly not finish the exercise.
Anyone standing out as
No, there's no natural leader emerging here. This is not uncommon in this kind of exercise.
So we have to bring a cage with them. Yeah, we've got to think about the oil drum next.
An obstacle course they hadn't expected. Psychological traps are being sprung in their path. Can they handle a conflict of ideas?
Who are you, number 2? I'm the captain of a football team, Boxton's.
What's the time now?
It's 12 o'clock, sir.
What problems facing you?
Well, the coach has broken down, and we...
In the context of this exercise?
Flight Lieutenant Williams.
What's the problem facing you in general terms?
Well, we've got 2 climbers stuck on Mulligan's Peak. They appear to have fallen and broken their legs. And we've got to get them to the hospital in Galway Bay as quickly as possible.
As quickly as possible? How do you work that time out?
Well, they're travelling during the day, and they should be able to do an average speed of 20 miles per hour in a Land Rover.
What distance?
It's a distance of 95 miles.
And what's the time on that?
Well, the time between is 4 hours, 4.25 hours.
That makes it 10, 11 o'clock at night.
11 o'clock at night?
Yeah, it's 20 miles an
Sure.
hour, 3/4.
3/4, 12
Between
miles
these
an hour.
6
Sure
miles
about
short. It's like 12 miles an hour, an hour and 3/4, sorry, 21 miles.
So?
We're leaving 5 miles short.
5 miles
All right, the time is rushing along now. What is the earliest time, in fact, you can set off on this journey?
10:30. We've got a half an hour wait for the Land Rover to become serviceable. And then travel back down from there to the hospital.
I see. So what time do you actually get to the hospital?
80.
Were you able to work that out?
Yes, I did somewhere. Oh, bigger than that. 3:55.
That's slightly quicker than
It
the
is,
one you
yes.
gave me.
Why?
Well, which one are you going to go for now?
This one sounds infinitely better.
Well, you told me that you had
Yes.
to get them to hospital as quickly as possible. Which
yes.
route are you going to pump for?
The bridle path.
Well, you're going to take them right across there, that
No, but
9-hour hike,
yes,
for another,
that's
what,
it, that's-
25 minutes?
yes,
Surely
that's,
not.
That's it, that's why.
Huh?
No, I think I'd stick to my first plan.
The majority of people at the end of the whole procedure here enjoy it, have said they've enjoyed it and they've learnt something about themselves. And so whatever they do, even if they don't come to us, it's been a help to them. I think one, again, an interesting one I had who some months ago who was interesting because he'd been a natural success all his life. He was a tremendously academic chap. He'd got very good O and A levels. He was studying a degree at Cambridge or Oxford, I forget, one of the two major universities, going through it very well. He was a natural sportsman, and everything he'd touched in his life, he'd been successful. And he came here, and at halfway through the second part of it, things started going wrong for him, and he just never recovered. And at the end of it, he was a bit on the defensive, and it was because he'd suddenly realized that he'd failed something in his life or hadn't done as well as he'd thought. And it had obviously shattered him mentally, that he wasn't as good as he thought he'd been up till then. But he stuck out a little bit as being one of the few who didn't really enjoy it, I don't think.
Can you bring it up there?
Back in the hangar for a final practical test of leadership. Their trial is almost over. The officers have seen enough. They're writing their reports.
Thank you very much.
Right. You went quite right in the face.
Can I just drop? Can we just drop?
Yes, you can drop it if you want to.
You can hold the plank, the other side of the black box, just off the end of the...
Nice shot.
No, partially, but it's like that.
I thought it was playing tough.
To go.
Success! It was quite testing, I think, on all of us, because everyone was trying to sort of put their point of view across, what they'd like to do and how they think how it ought to be done. But in the end, where it worked out in the end, we've completed, I think, about a second to spare.
He is of modest but adequate pilot aptitude. He'll be something of a risk in pilot training, but on balance, the more positive aspects of his character and his personality and his applied abilities suggest that he could be recommended for pilot, his first choice, or indeed considered for navigator, which is his second. And so, on balance, I opt for him as, with a risk, as a candidate for pilot training.
He's certainly got very adequate academics to meet the theoretical demands of training, so I think on balance, yes, we'll offer him training as a permanent commission.
A week later, the final decisions were made. Of the 22 who'd lasted the course, 5 were rejected because it was felt they lacked mental agility. 4 were thought to have personalities that wouldn't fit. 3 lacked motivation. 3 were considered immature. 1 was judged to lack the stamina for 3 years of vigorous training. These 6 survivors will be trained as pilot officers. Robbie Lowe, male nurse. Trevor Lewis, aircraftsman. Alistair Stewart, zoologist. Martin Oxborough, RAF armourer. Neil Tompkin, bank clerk. Rod Smart, aircraftsman.